Hey everyone, welcome to MechWarrior Online, and my first YouTube video. So, the purpose of this video was to make a response to a few things. The first of which being the unfunning of MWO by MechThedanes, Old Bob's podcast number 26, Kanajashi's interview of MechThedanes and Val, and the community balance pass. So I had thought originally to get my thoughts out on a forum post on the MechWarrior forums, but, well, you know how forums go. Everybody's so nice there, so I decided to give YouTube a shot instead, just to kind of get my thoughts out. So, as far as, a too long, don't want to watch the rest of the video, I'm gonna say this in short. Has MechWarrior Online become unfun, generally? Is the problems with the game as bad as everything's made it out to be? I'd say in some degrees, absolutely. The game has... It's not as good as it once was when I started playing it, in some respects. Well, it has improved in others. But generally, I'd say yes and no. It's not entirely unfun. I still have fun moments. I would say MechWarrior Online still has a spark to it that I just really enjoy. So, but to give you an example of a game that I would say has become unfun, for real, is World of Tanks. World of Tanks, which is steadily kind of going down. Who knows how much longer it'll be around, but anyway. So for those of you who do keep watching my high quality video, and I applaud you, and thank you for watching. Even though this is probably just going to be a rant by some random gamer overall, and just... who knows if it'll lead anywhere. So, mainly, I'm going to start with, a few points. One thing is weapon balance. That's been a big deal, and I gotta say, weapon balance... If we're talking clan versus IS, in general, I'd say it's a lot closer now than it was before Civil War. With the introduction of the ER mediums and ER smalls especially, I'd say that's really helped the IS bridge the gap between the clans. But as to how powerful the clans are right now, I can't say, because I'm not a clan player. I mean, I've seen them do some really, really huge damage, and I've seen some videos on YouTube showing some really amazing games, and it's impressive how much damage some of these people are pulling off with those heavy lasers. Which, what is one of the big issues of the videos is the high amount of energy vomit we're seeing lately. And I would say that is this as a result of one issue, or just being the best playstyle that worked? I would say a bit of yes and no. I'd say there's so many different reasons for why things are better or for worse, and why we've got the energy vomit meta that we do now. I would say, as far as weapon balance, I'd say I don't think that's as much of a factor in why energy vomit's so prominent. But I'm an average player, what do I know? I'm just talking based on my experiences. But I would say, based on the community balance patch, which I've read through, and I will include a link in the description for those who would like to see it or who have not seen it or just need a refresher. Oh, that was close. But generally speaking, I would not say I'm a spreadsheet warrior by any means. Several of the changes seem reasonable to me, but I mean, it's hard to say how much they'll impact the game, because a number may look good on paper, but in practice, who knows what could happen. It could be overpowered or it could be completely underpowered for all we know, or it could do nothing at all. So I'm a bit reserved to wait and see on how things go with the balance. And to some degrees, I doubt PGI will do very much. But again, who knows? But as far as things I think definitely could change, like as far as balance goes, there's only a few things for me that I think could really stand to be improved. Like, I think small pulse for the inner sphere, or pulse lasers in general, could use a bit of improvements. Because I think I've seen I've had really good games, but the pulse lasers have seemed to be like, I feel like the pulse lasers have really taken a hit in the meta as far as how much they're used. But again, I'm not the best. I'm an IS only player, so some of the changes I can't say. The clan pulse lasers definitely still fairly powerful to me. Whereas the IS pulse lasers feel really like they work in a very slim number of situations. So I definitely could see some balance changes there. Like, one of the biggest ones I could see is the large pulse laser and bring it back up to 11.
Heat level critical.
But because
Target destroyed.
Ever since it lost even just that 1 point of damage, like, the large pulse has seemed very just lackluster compared to, like, even the PPC. Especially the snub-nose PPC, with its introduction. Being a very reliable weapon. And I'd also say another factor is the ER medium. Because of how light it is, how close the range is on the two, it's like a difference of 5. But, like, some of the biggest issues, I would say, right now, in terms of ballistics, like, I think some of the biggest changes I think should be done to ballistics. One of the big changes I saw in, pardon me, with the community balance patch was the goal to bring all ammo from every ballistic up to about 200 damage per ton. So I see a few problems with this in general. Mostly to do with the AC10 series of autocannons. Like, as many mech warriors will know, the AC10 has always been in a spot of being not always bad, but never particularly useful. When PGI introduced the 200 damage per ton on the AC10 and gave it the most out of any autocannon, that definitely made a big difference in making it more effective. But, like, as much as I don't with this change, I think that'll really push the AC10 back into from having a bit of a unique characteristic that gave it an advantage to being obsolete again. In general, all the AC10 series, in my opinion, have been obsoleted for a very long time. Like, mainly because, well, the Gauss rifle, for one, is a big reason why it's been out of meta. The AC20 for brawling has really just, it dominates the AC10. Like, even the introduction of the Ultra AC10 for the IS, I honestly think has been a really sort of meh weapon. Like, some of you may crucify me for saying that, but I find compared to the Ultra 5, it's just not as effective. Like, for how much it weighs, it's kind of meh. I can't explain it. I just never feel really satisfied with it, with its performance. But I think that goes for the entirety of the AC10 tree in general, or the AC10 series, sorry. But as far as fixing the AC10 series, like, if I had to say, I think the AC10 should actually have its weight drop down from its tabletop, because I think that would help it, because it wouldn't be like that tiny gap of 2 tons between the AC20 and the 3 between the Gauss rifle that kind of asks the question, well, why do we have this weapon? What does it do? What purpose does it serve? And right now it's a kind of a jack of all trades weapon, but it doesn't do anything really well. I think reducing its weight a bit, I think would help make it a more appetizing option for many mech warriors looking for a weapon that has a good balance of damage, DPS, and a reasonable weight, which is something right now the AC10 really doesn't have, in my opinion. I would probably drop it down to 11 tons. 11, maybe 10 tons, with the LB also dropping down a bit more. Also, I'd like to apologize if my gameplay sucks. I'm an average player overall. I'm not a pro by any means. I just play for fun. But as far as other weapon balance is concerned, I'd say I think it's alright as a whole for the IS, but as far as the clans, as I said, I can't really speak on the clans because I'm not a clan player. And before you ask in the YouTube comments the reason why, I'll do a quick explanation for you. For me, mainly, it's because, like, when I play, I was playing during the faction warfare when it first came out, and that was when the clans first appeared on the battlefield. And I think it's just the feeling has always stuck with me that I always view the clans as being something overpowered and just not being as fun because there's not as much challenge involved in doing well with a clan mech as opposed to an inner sphere. But again, that's just my opinion. And to some degrees, I think they're still better than the IS. The IS have their pluses and minuses. The introduction of clan battle mechs was...
Target acquired.
Resource point Beta is ours.
Oh, great. This is not good.
The enemy is at 25%.
But moving on. So, the next thing I want to address is the rescale. So, in my opinion, I didn't really notice this a whole lot, except for a few cases.
Acquired.
Like, say, with the like the 35 tonners, I really have noticed it. Like, I used to be a really good Panther pilot when it was really like, people were like, oh, the Panther sucks, it's terrible.
Warning, incoming missile.
And I really enjoyed my Panther. But since the rescale, I really have not. I did play it as much after the rescale happened, and I think the rescale had. I think its impact is not as big as has been stated. Like, I think to some mechs, it's definitely had a fair amount of impact. But some other mechs, it really hasn't changed them almost at all. Like, the Black Knight has really remained about the same size as it was initially.
Target destroyed.
But the 35 tonners have definitely been hurt by it. The catapult really it was a great help to the catapult.
Target acquired.
So, I think that's a really minor point, because it's give and take. It's had an impact in some places, but I don't think overall it's caused the game to be unfun. So, with that out of the way, I'm gonna move on to something else, and that's the skill tree. And here, like, well, many people have.
New target acquired.
We need to keep holding on to our resource points.
Well, many people have claimed that the skill tree was a very positive. I really actually feel the latter.
Target destroyed.
Like, I feel the skill tree has really had a very negative impact on the game as a whole. Many say that the mastery system it really needed a change, and to be honest, I think in some degrees I would say, yeah, it did, but I don't know if it was entirely warranted. And I think the way PGI did the skill tree was way too aggressive. Like, they could have simplified it a lot. Like, the skill tree has been a really complicated. It's really complicated relative to the mastery system, and like as I said, this is where I think the main unfunning is coming from, is the skill tree. Like, before with the mastery system, it was a bit of a it was pretty good, but like, it was simple, it was efficient, it worked. That's what I liked about it. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't complicated. And that was the beauty. Whereas the skill tree, well, it does add this extra layer of customization that it's not half bad at times. I find it really, it's nice, it's kind of refreshing at times having the additional customization. But having that additional customization has brought on its own problems. And the main unfunning of the game. Like, the main culprit of this unfunning, and I'd say this is also the main reason we're in an energy meta, the energy vomit meta is so prevalent right now, is the survival tree. Like, granted, the survival tree is not always, like, it doesn't help every mech in the game. It does a little bit, but it's not like a vast improvement. The main problem with the survival tree comes with mechs that have armor quirks. Like, for example, one mech that I've done a calculation on that I can remember right off the top of my head is the all too common Irby with its massive armor quirks that, like, when you fully max out the armor hardening, you get 380 points of raw armor. Like, that's more than a standard 55-ton heavy with 370 points. I mean, that's ridiculous. And it's also on this very small and and somewhat hard to hit mech at long range, and because it also is a bit of a problem because it also has a 360 torso twist, but that's a bit of a different issue. Like, but because of this raw increase in armor on some mechs, like, why has this pushed us into an energy vomit meta? Some of you might ask. I'd say mainly because it's increasing the TDK quite a bit, and it makes these mechs that have armor quirks capable of being incredibly powerful brawlers, and it's problematic in that sense. Okay. So it really makes the brawling playstyle, like, and I'm just gonna say this right now, I really enjoy brawling, and if you couldn't tell by my build on my bounty hunter, one of my favorite mechs, that it's set up to be mid-range, almost semi-mid-range brawler. I really have fun with it. But I've been noticing that I've been playing less of my brawlers lately and been playing more of my stock. The previous two matches with my Stalker and my Hunchback. Like, these mechs are just a lot more competitive in the current stage of the meta with the introduction of armor quirks, because, like, it takes so much longer to take down these select mechs that it makes brawling with them not necessarily the best idea. So, like, generally speaking, I think the armor quirks I think either armor quirks need to be somehow factored into the survival tree in the same way mech tonnage is, or the mech classes are. It's probably going to make it more complicated to code and more time, but, you know, I'd be happy if they did something to address this. And I think it would make the game a bit more fun again, because it would allow more brawling than it currently does. But there's also the issue of the mobility tree. I generally use the mobility tree on a few mechs, and I've been noticing it's less in impact as well as other YouTubers have, and I don't know if it's as... I never looked too closely at the mobility, so I've been starting to look more closely at it since it was brought up. And I gotta say, I believe they're right, and I've been reducing those points and redistributing them. Like, even, like, mech ops is not as prevalent as it used to be. Like, I think the other issue with the skill tree is how it interacts with mech quirks. Like I think it causes some problems there, because mechs that have uber quirks are really powerful when combined with the skill tree, and it causes more balance problems as in the game as a whole, because
New target acquired.
Because in general, before, when it came to balancing an MWO, you had the mechs themselves and their chassis, you had the individual weapon systems, then you had the equipment, and then you had the base mastery system. But the big difference between the mastery system and the skill tree, in that the most notably is that with the mastery, Like, there's so many more individual combinations that can occur now with the skill tree than the mastery system, which was a flat rate that was equal across all mechs. Like, every mech was the same, regardless. Like, at full mastery,
New target acquired.
it was the same. There was no difference between Mech A and Mech B at full mastery. Everybody had the same. It was a level. It was a level playing field. Everybody had the same thing. So you didn't. There was less variables to balance for in this case.
New target acquired.
And I think that's generally helped. Or actually, no,
New target acquired.
has hindered the game, in my opinion. And honestly, what I would like to see is maybe a mastery skill tree hybrid in the future. Like, bring the good elements of the skill tree and the good elements of the mastery system and combine them in one. Maybe having the nodes from the skill tree in a more simplified fashion, and maybe make it so you need 2 mechs at minimum for mastery.
New target acquired.
Like, I think that would make a fair difference in how balancing works with MechWarrior Online.
Level critical.
Oh shit. Like, I think it would definitely help.
Torso critical damage. Heatsink destroyed. Right torso critical damage. Torso destroyed. Left arm destroyed. Laser destroyed. Center torso critical damage. Heatsink destroyed. Left leg critical damage. Heat leg critical.
Well, in my best, but like, I think in general that would probably could solve some of the problems that the skill tree has. But enough on that topic for now. I mean, if there's any other questions or any more specific questions, I'll answer them in the comments. Like, then we move on to the engine desync. So this one to me it's give and take, because the impact of certain, like, on some mechs with the replacement variables of the acceleration, deceleration, etc., have had varying impact levels of success, and I think I'm not really on the level that the desync was necessary. Like, I honestly think if the desync was left in the game, I don't think it would have been such a problem that it would have hurt the game negatively if it had just remained. But beyond that, so I'm really not going to spend much time here, because it really hasn't been as big of a deal to me. And I think I think people are a bit more, I don't know, I mean, and all due respect to other people's, like, it's probably impacted some people more than me, potentially. So everybody's experience is different here. But there's not a lot I can say on this, because for me, it really hasn't impacted my fun with MechWarrior Online to a significant degree. So, second to last here, we're going to move on to the consumables. Again, I think this is a bit of a hit and miss in how overpowered consumables are. I'm going to say right off the bat, I don't use consumables because I don't care to use them. So, I just, like, the cool shot, the twin cool shot, I've definitely seen that be pretty overpowered. Like, I'm not a fan of that one. But when it comes to the airstrike and the artillery strike, I gotta say, I don't really think they're really all that important. Like, can they do a lot of damage? Yes, absolutely. Having two of them, can they do a huge amount of damage? Absolutely. But the thing with those, it comes in, as I've just said, is can they? Meaning, is it guaranteed they're going to do a lot of damage? If an opponent is distracted, possibly, yes. But if they've got armor quirks, it doesn't really matter that much. It's not as much of a... Like, they're only losing a few points. So, it really... Like, for those select mechs, it doesn't really matter as much to them. But... Like, I'd say it's just not... It's not... Those two, really, it's like... How powerful... How overpowered or how underpowered they are is... It's entirely based on situational awareness. Like... It can be good, or it could be really good or really bad, depending on the situation. As far as the UAVs, I'd say having two of them is helpful. I don't think their impact on the game, if it's a good team, could be really impactful. But in quick play like I'm playing, it's hit and miss. So, moving on to a more last topic, the meta and power creep. Like, this has been pretty common. Like, I've seen a lot of this, and like with some mechs, like the latest Piranha has been a huge thing, and like I've been killed by more than a few so far. And although I would say it's entirely... Like, with power creep, I think it's a bit one-sided in the clan's favor here, because in a lot of the latest clan assault mechs, we've been seeing steady replacements in that regard. Like when the Marauder 2C came out, it was the most overpowered clan assault available. Then we had the Kodiak. Might be wrong on that one, but... Then that was the most powerful thing. Then it got nerfed, and then that was the most... Then the most powerful after that was the new Supernova. Then the Mad Cat, and so on, and probably the Blood Asp. I hope the Blood Asp is really well balanced, because I'm seriously considering buying it, because... Just a bit of history, my first MechWarrior game was Mech Assault 2, and the hero of that mech of that game to me was the Blood Asp, and... It's kind of it's a really cool mech for me. But, random tangent aside, I think, in general, power creep, like, it's something you always got to deal with in games, and I think it's been a lot more prevalent on the clan side than it has been on the Inner Sphere. That's not to say the Inner Sphere, like, the Bushwhacker has kind of been a bit of a power creep, but I'd say not as noticeable as I would say the rest of the clan mechs, or clan assaults specifically, have been. But as far as the meta, I'd say, like, I think, like, the energy vomit meta has kind of been, like, majorly pushed by the result... has been majorly the result of the implementation of the skill tree and armor quirks. Being, it takes longer to destroy an enemy mech now as opposed to before. So people are less likely to go with ammunition-dependent ballistics than, or as opposed to unlimited fire and long-ranged energy weapons like the ER medium and ER large lasers. Like even to some degrees the snub-nosed PPCs on the IS. I've seen some pretty good builds with those, and those can be pretty fun. But I'd say the meta, if the meta is to change, I think one of the big things that needs to happen is I think the survival tree needs to be able to take into account armor quirks, or armor quirks need to be heavily reduced in some cases. Like, I think they shouldn't be going, like, there should be a rule that armor quirks don't go any higher than one weight class above. If it's going any higher than that, I think we're having a problem.
Target acquired.
Like, I think that might solve a few of our problems.
Target destroyed. New target acquired.
Ow, that hurt.
New target acquired.
What the hell? I didn't know they installed the skylight in here. Yeah, well, just distracted again, but
New target acquired. Target destroyed. New target acquired.
so overall, I would say the meta will change based on what happens with buffs, nerfs, as usual, and I think at least until the survival tree changes, I think that's really the only time we're really going to get things like... I think that's really when we may see the meta kind of revert back to...
Target destroyed. New
I think
target
that's when
acquired.
we may see the meta kind of revert back to a more stable and less energy vomity
Target destroyed.
meta. Oh, I saw you, Wolfhound. You're not getting away that quick. Ah, shit.
Target acquired.
Yeah, I'm not outfitted for this sort of thing.
Target destroyed.
Oh, well, GG.
Command is happy to hear of your
Oh,
success and
another supply catch. Awesome. Even though I sell most of them. Yeah, meh result. But in closing, I want to say, is the whole MechWarrior become completely unfun? Like, is MechWarrior completely unfun now? And are we in, like, the great apocalypse of MechWarrior, where MechWarrior may die off? I'd say no, at least not in a massive fashion. I think it could eventually, but I think we have tons of time to stay. We have more than enough time to make sure this doesn't happen. And there are many steps that PGI can take to fix the problems we have. And, well, even though, I mean, the responses are not always the best to issues like this, and it could be better. I mean, balancing a game as big as MWO is no small feat. And personally, I don't think we'll ever reach a point where MechWarrior Online will be perfectly balanced. Like, at least probably not not before the engine shuts down. I'd also like to thank old Bob from the First Circuit podcast, which will be the specific episode will be linked. I suggest you turn up your volume on that one. I'd just like to thank him for kind of pushing me to make this video and give YouTube a shot, try something new, as it were. And I hope the future of MechWar continues on, and that we see some really cool mechs coming up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video and my mediocre quality. Have a good night, or good evening, or whatever.